The tone of his voice, the horrific laughter. I freaked out. I called my parents and informed them, if I go missing this is who has me. What is the creepiest confession that you have heard from an otherwise normal person? Out of nowhere my ma tells me my dad drunkenly confessed that he and his cousin, whom my mom later dated and had a kid with, picked up a hitchhiker out near the beach in the early 90s. They were intoxicated, and one thing led to another, and they ended up killing the guy and burying him in a remote location in some sand dunes. She assumed he was trying to scare her into staying with him, since they were going through a breakup, and she shrugged it off as much as my BS. So the story goes, years later a story comes up on the news. They are asking for information about remains found buried in a sand dune. She's not really paying attention until they start describing this large belt buckle that may help identify the man. She flips out because my dad had bragged about taking the guy's belt off, which had a huge Texas style buckle, and beating him with it, making fun of the buckle and stuff. Next day the cousin calls and tells her he or his buddies would not hesitate to kill us if she breathes a word. Anyways, she always felt really guilty about not turning them in, but after losing my sister, she died very young. She couldn't fathom losing me as well. The rest is history. They are free dudes. Stealing and selling medications from the hospital/ambulances to the members of some local black market. This guy had a whole intricate plan, including alibis and possible cover-ups and stuff. It's scary what lengths some people would go for money. I have a completely normal friend, we are both in our early 40s now, that shared with me his childhood story of living with a ghost. Every night he had a ghost that would walk down the hallway into his bedroom and just stare at him, sometimes making noises, but usually quiet. He was so petrified that he would pull the sheets over his head. When this first happened, he would scream or run down the hallway to his parents' bedroom, but they would always turn him back to his own bedroom and tell him that his imagination was running wild. Over time, he actually grew accustomed to this apparition, but was still freaked out by it. But because my friend has such a type A and an OBS personality, I admit that I found it creepy. The hair stood up on the back of my neck to listen to him tell this story with such a nonchalant and straightforwardness. He eventually moved out of his childhood home when he was a teenager, and these ghost episodes have never reoccurred. There are different people living in his childhood home now, and he said that he would never go back there again. My friend, who is this grade A student, goes over to all these different girls' houses, not to have sex or anything, just to steal their dirty underwear while they're in the bathroom or they're elsewhere. He has a full box, which includes a pair of my sister's underwear which he admitted to stealing, in his pantry. I'm surprised no one has noticed in his house, but to this day, I'm the only one who knows. My ex-boyfriend could not handle our breakup. I broke it off with him because of significant issues, drugs, stealing, etc. I finally got out of it. He didn't. He would not give up on me. At first he was desperate at trying to get back with me, following me, waiting in obscure locations for when I walked to my car, and even threatening to kill himself if I didn't see him. I blocked his numbers, changed my email, transferred colleges, moved a state away, and tried to move on with my life. He was in and out of jail for drugs and stealing, in addition to concealed weapons charges, which was scary for me, knowing all the times when he confronted me alone. It was about 4 or so years later when I received the creepiest phone call. It was him calling to tell me that he was looking for me all this time. The tone of his voice, the horrific laughter. I freaked out. I called my parents and informed them, if I go missing this is who has me. I called campus security and made sure they had his description. He never showed up, but my god, the voice on the other end of the line still brings chills. It scares me to this day that he is out there possibly looking for me. Luckily I've become more aware of precautions to take. Pepper spray, learning self-defense, etc. If I was in another state where obtaining a gun was easier, I would have done so. Unfortunately it's not so easy where I'm now. I do however have panic buttons and GPS locators, so if something were to happen, I can be found. I try not to let fear or paranoia run my life. I try to take the best precautions, but I will always have that fear that just around the corner, he will be waiting for me. There was this girl in my school, who I think was a selective mute. She only talked to a few people, and I was one of them. Then she told me that I'd never be on her hit list. I used to help out at a nursing home. This old Russian lady would relate the same tale over and over. Her husband drank and hit her. It was sad for sure, but one day she leaned over and whispered he was asshole drunk, so I pushed him downstairs. Dead. We now have a Patreon account. Please consider supporting us so that we can keep bringing you this awesome content. Make sure you subscribe and watch our other videos too. Don't forget to turn on notifications to catch our latest videos.